Until when judgment is delivered, some you will not see how they will disappear one by one, but those in whose favor the judgment is delivered, the jubilation continues. So that will be with the sense that the jubilation, even after the delivery of the judgments by God, the saints will still be in this jubilant mood, and hence the celebration at Mount Zion. Thank you.
Amen.
Yes, brother. We may look at the issue of, after the judgment, the decisions are made. The fate of the two groups is known, and then comes the issue of the shaking of the heavens and the earth. It's not only the earth that shall be shaken, but it's the shaking of the heavens and the earth. And why the shaking? Why is God doing this? What is the import? What is happening? And who is being shaken?
Okay. So, in looking again at after the festivities are over, and then we move forward into the shaking, Hebrews 12 verse 26 talks about a shaking, and it says, when God spoke from Mount Sinai, his voice shook the earth, but now he makes another promise. Once again I will shake not only the earth but the heavens also. And why would this be happening? In the beginning, as indicated, when it was the Israelites transitioning from Egypt through to the Promised Land, the shaking accomplished, and it accomplished the Israelites getting to know truly that the God who had brought them out of the land of bondage, which was Egypt, is a God that has power. He had descended to come on a mountain, and the mountain was covered in clouds, there was thunderings, there was lightnings, and when he spoke, people didn't even want to be in that presence because it was so fearful, to the extent that Moses, as the leader too, said that I am afraid. It's terrifying to be here. And so looking forward now and looking into the future for the shaking that is to happen, to the extent that even the heavens will be shaken, the reason will be to get rid of what I term as negative elements, to get rid of the sin problem. The shaking will accomplish the uprooting of those kingdoms that have been established against and warring against God's children. When that happens, it will happen also to the extent that the positive elements will be retained. But for now, focusing just on the aspect of the shaking and getting rid of the negative elements, it seems like the shaking is a common occurrence that appeared in the Old Testament, or at least something that was talked about a few times in the Old Testament, not just to the children of Israel, but also when prophets spoke about something that would happen in the future. In the Old Testament, the shaking of the earth, for example, was a common figure for the presence of God, who shows up to deliver his people. And I believe even at the time that it is happening in the future, it will be because God is delivering his people. And it has been described as a powerful earthquake, a shaking of the earth and mountains because of the presence of God. I have not been to a place where there are earthquakes or experienced one, but I know that locally we experience tremors. I think there was one a few years ago where they said it originated somewhere in Siavonga or the Chirundu area, but even here in Lusaka it was felt. And that was just, and they said it was a small one. And I can't imagine what a powerful earthquake would be like, but that is what the presence of God is likened to. And so a shaking is a signal that God's judgment has begun as he asserts his authority over the people of the earth. And even when we look at the Hebrews account of the shaking of the heaven and the earth, it refers to the destruction of the enemies of God. So it will be something that gets rid of the sin problems, because then those that have stood against God will be destroyed. And we talk about the sin problem not being about, I would say, human beings, but about the devil and those that follow him. So when God comes and when his presence is here, the shaking will be to the destruction of the enemies of God. And this is what God has promised at God promised at the enthronement of Jesus Christ, that he will make Christ's enemies a footstool. And so the shaking accomplishes what God had promised, to make Christ's enemies a footstool for his feet. And God will destroy these enemies in the future when he will shake the heavens and the earth. The shaking of the heavens and the earth means that the destruction of the earthly powers that persecute God's people, and more importantly, the destruction of evil powers, that is Satan and his angels, who stand behind the earthly powers and control them. That is what will be accomplished by this shaking, a destruction of the earthly powers that have for so long persecuted God's people and God's children. So I hope that in a way summarizes what the shaking implies and what will be accomplished by it.
You see, what we see here is that when God is angry, it cannot be quiet. Things have to shake.